Installing the power user harness requires access to the engine wire harness. Fortunately, that wire harness routes to the engine control module, which is underneath the passenger foot kick plate here. So all you have to do to get to that is you have to remove this plastic trim piece here. You got to remove your floor mat, and then you can basically pull the carpet back and get to it. I also recommend removing this seat. It just requires you to remove a 14mm bolt here and then 4 12mm bolts there, and the seat will come out. Makes this process much easier if the seat's not in here. With the carpet out of the way, we need to loosen and then remove 4 nuts here. With those 4 nuts removed, we're going to take and we're going to pull this metal up like that, and then it should be able to pull out like that. And now my recommendation, there are 2 bolts in the back side here, and there's no way I'm going to be able to film them, but my recommendation is to take a 10mm, stick it on the back side, and unscrew these 2 bolts here. Once those 2 bolts are removed, we can just remove this plate, and that will give us access to the ECM, and we will actually unplug it. Now we can remove the ECM and we have access to the wire harness here. Now that we have the engine control module out, we need to hook up 3 wires to the ECM wire harness, and we'll be hooking one of the wires up to the B connector, and we'll be hooking 2 of the wires up to the C connector, which is this blue one here. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to remove the electric tape on this harness on the C and B connectors. And then my recommendation is that we'll cut just a little bit of this thicker rubber housing off using a pair of scissors. Make sure you don't cut into these wires. So I'm going to cut maybe 1/2 inch back. And this is just going to give us better access to those wires. And so now that we have this jacket back, we're going to go ahead and just cut it off here. If we look at this connector, here is the tab right there. And the first wire we need is the red black. It's C27. And it's right here. And so now that we have the red black wire pulled out here, we're going to take one of the posi taps and we're going to unscrew the gray side, and we're going to slide this around the wire and put it about 3/4 of an inch back or so, and then we're going to screw this on until the red posi tap side is touching the red insulation. The second wire we tap on the C connector is the map sensor, and it's going to be just below this red-black wire. It is red-green, and it's pin C17. We will take another posi tap. We'll unscrew the gray side of it. We'll take the gray side, put it around the wire just like we did before, and then we will screw our posi tap on. Next, we're going to do the B connector. Once again, we need to remove the electric tape here. So the third and final connection we need to make to the ECM wire harness is on the B connector, and that is the clutch switch, which is red, red. But be warned, there are 2 red, red wires on the B connector, Honda's infinite wisdom. So first I'm going to tell you which wire you do not connect to. This is the fuel injector. And if you connect to this red wire here, which is 1, 2, 3, bad things will happen. Do not connect to this red wire. You want the red wire that's B14, which is actually in the middle. It's on the middle row. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And once you count to 14 here, you're going to find this red wire right here. And it's buried kind of deep. So if you need to, you might need to remove a little bit more of this jacket here. Note that on a CVT, this is going to be light green, and you're still going to connect to it. This is the park and neutral indicator on a CVT. Now that we have this good and out, we're going to take our third posi tap here. So now that we have our 3 wires tapped, we need to connect them up to our cable that goes to the LiControl unit. So the red wire in the LiControl harness is going to hook up to the red clutch switch. And to do that, we're going to take and we're going to unscrew. Notice how I'm holding the red body here with my hand. I don't want this to twist because it will unscrew that. So I'm going to grab onto this, and then I'm going to unscrew the top red piece like that. I'm going to take this red piece thread side up and just drop it on my wire like that. And we're going to take and put this wire anywhere on the side. It doesn't matter, but it needs to go down towards the side of this barrel. And then while we're pushing down on that wire, we're going to start screwing this in just a little bit. And then before it gets tight, we're going to push. I'm pushing down with my right hand on this wire so that it stays all the way down in that barrel. And then we're going to just tighten this up like that. And once you have that done, this wire should not pull out. Next, we're going to hook the black wire to the red-black wire on the harness. And so the red-black wire was this first one we tapped here on top. Finally, we're going to take the white wire on the LiControl harness, and we're going to hook that up to the red-green, which is the map sensor. So from here, we'll kind of just take our black wire, and we're going to just put it behind this engine wire harness like that. We need to add 2 zip ties to secure this to the wire harness. Before we reconnect the ECM, we need to make sure there isn't going to be any strain on these positaps. And so when these are connected, the side here with the detent latch is going to be facing this direction. So we just need to make sure that with these facing all the correct direction, that none of these are sticking up. They need to kind of be sticking down. And once we do that, we're going to reconnect the ECM. And you can see here I've already mounted it to this black plate. And I have, this is backwards right now, but I've connected these 2 10mm bolts here, and I've tightened them, and I've made sure that I can see through these holes here that they line up. Once we've done that, we're going to turn this around. The 4 connectors here will go on the passenger side like that. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to reconnect these connectors, starting with D in the back. And then C, which is the blue connector, and then B. And after we've connected C, we once again want to make sure that when we hook up B, we're not going to run into those positaps. We don't want to put a lot of strain on them. So there's our B, and yeah, the wires all look good. The A connector here is last, and then we'll just do one final check that, yeah, the positaps are not going to be strained. Now we're going to take this and we're going to push it onto those back 2 bolts. And then once we've done that, we're going to push this down like that. And then we're going to reattach the 4 nuts here. Now that we have all 4 nuts tightened, we just need to take and route this wire back to the LiControl board. And we'll just follow the wire harness that goes right through the tunnel here, and we'll just follow it all the way back. To route the wires that go from the front to the back of the car, we first need to remove these 2 screws right here. That gives us a little bit of room underneath there. And then we're going to get our wires ready that we're routing. In this case, we're doing both the 4x20 display for LIBCM, and we're also doing the LiControl cable, which we've already hooked up to the ECM here. And we're going to basically lift this carpet up, and we're going to roughly route each wire. And so I'm just pushing first the LiControl wire, and we're going to just route it right along the existing harness that's right here. So we're also going to route the LIBCM cable. And once you have it routed well, we are going to take some zip ties, and we're going to zip both of these wires to the harness right here. Now you don't have to route this underneath the carpet. If you would prefer, you can route it right on top. This is just going to be a slightly cleaner implementation. We do need to take and zip it one more time up here so that it doesn't fall underneath the seat rails. Okay, now we'll set the carpet back down, and we'll put one more zip right here. All right, so now we've routed the LiControl wires back, and we've routed the LIBCM display wire forward. So we are done messing with the carpet. We can go ahead and reinstall it. Now that we have the LiControl wire harness routed to the back, we're going to hook it up to these 3 connections. So to hook the 3 connections up, if you followed my color coding before, then red is going to be clutch, which is CLT there. And then up next is the throttle position sensor, which again, if you followed my wiring colors earlier, is going to be the black wire here. And finally is going to be our map sensor here, which again, if you followed my directions, will be white.